Welcome to Backyards and Bevvies. Grab your favorite bevy, pull up a chair, and enjoy the ride. Hey, B&B fam. This podcast is sponsored to you by BetterHelp, H-E-L-P. Is there something getting in the way of your happiness? I know when I traveled the world, I had many days where BetterHelp's worldwide service of licensed professional therapists could have helped me speak to someone no matter where I was in the world about whatever was happening with my life, and with zero judgment. With their ability to match me with a therapist that best fits me, I know my mental health would have been way better back then. Believe me, I needed it. But I'm here to share a way for you to take back control of your mental health by telling you about BetterHelp's awesome services they have for you to talk with a pro about your life through their app or just online. Whether it is a video session or some simple messaging, their team is here to help. I went to check out the app for myself just to see how easy it was to use, and after a series of questions, I was told I would be able to start matching with a therapist in under 48 hours. And what is super rad is that it's affordable and they even offer financial aid too. So come join the 2 million users that have already been helped and gain back control of your mental health by visiting betterhelp.com/backyards for 10% off your first month. Remember, BetterHelp is therapy done securely online. Don't forget to use the special code BACKYARDS and let BetterHelp, H-E-L-P, help you to start living a happier life today. Hey, Backyards and Bevvies.
Hi.
How are you today?
I'm good. How are you today?
I wasn't asking you. I was asking everybody else.
I am Backyards and Bevvies today, apparently.
Hello, and welcome to the new abode.
Yeah, first podcast in the new house.
The new
Hooray.
house. Yeah. Well, what an adventure it's been the past 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh, y'all don't even know.
Between getting sick and
Whole family sick.
moving, and it was a wild ride. We had, but at the end of the day, we are alive and we are making it, like you said. And I think like those are those definitely those key moments of being parents where you're like, this really sucks. This is hard.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to keep yourself alive.
Yeah.
And then you're trying to keep the other ones alive. And then you're like,
it was not easy.
Oh, we have to go to the doctor too. Oh, this is going to be a fun drive potentially. And, yeah, we're doing it. And this one is cool because in my eyes, moving forward or going somewhere different, it's hard. And being in a new house, a new neighborhood, surrounded by new faces, new everything, it's not easy. There's challenges all over. There's new challenges of a house, right?
Yeah.
Like we went from a big old acreage with a lawn service and all this stuff, and then it's to a smaller house.
Bigger house, smaller yard.
Yeah, bigger house, smaller yard, but the yard responsibilities now are twice as much. And so there's like budgeting time and budgeting family time and then budgeting work time, and it's a lot, right?
Yeah.
And I tend to do well, but I haven't found my rhythm yet.
Yeah.
But we've also
We'll
only been here.
We've only been here
8
for
days.
like a week and a half. Yeah, like not even. It'll get there.
Yeah. But I got this interesting text the other day that made me think about today's podcast, and it said something to the extent like it was from last week's or whatever 2 weeks ago podcast where we were talking about like, you know, improving yourself and you know how this show
Asking for help is hard.
Yeah,
and stuff.
but it was more like I was saying, well, this podcast has helped me a lot, you know, like talking about my life and opening up about stuff and really taking a deep dive at who I am and who I've been over the past 41 years. Of course, I don't remember every detail of like, you know, 1 through 3 or maybe even like 1 through 7, you know, it starts to get fuzzy at times. But there's still definitely things from, let's just say, 10 to now. So the past 31 years of my life, I've been able to really analyze myself. And, you know, 10 to 20 not saying you get like a free pass.
Yeah.
But those are like those adolescent years where you're learning still. You're still like in a moment of questioning everything and questioning authority and questioning what you actually think and believe. And then, 21 through 30, you're kind of testing the waters with
just trying to figure it out
with those same beliefs, because you leave high school thinking one thing, right? And then you get to college and you're like, whoa, this isn't what I thought. Or you're surrounded by family and then you go away from family and you're like, whoa, well, like,
I thought I wanted all this freedom, but
I thought this was exactly. Like, I thought this is exactly what I wanted because now I'm free and I can do whatever I want. And
then you miss some of the structure.
You miss the structure, or you think that all of a sudden magically it's going to be better.
Right.
Right. Like everybody, I think it's like the grass is greener. Oh, once I get out of high school, things are going to change. Right. It's like that movie lines like, oh, once we
go to college.
Yeah. Once we finally do this, it's all going to get better. And then 30 to now, I think was like the most challenging time of my life because it was all on me. There was no more safety net anymore. Like 30 to 40, I really had to stop testing and start actually doing things, right? Like it wasn't like just like, oh, well, let me see if I can get away with this anymore. It was like my conscience, my like the little devil and angel on my shoulders, they worked. I knew right from wrong. I knew what was needed I knew what needed to happen each day. I knew how to make money. I knew the idea of, well, I don't know, is gone. It's gone. And so the text message read somewhere to the extent like, well, you've always been a great person. Okay. No, that's not a fact. That's not true because I have done a lot of things in my life that would deem me not to be a good person, whether it be to someone else, whether it be to a group of people, whether it be to myself. I've, like the abuse to yourself is just as bad as abuse to someone else.
Absolutely.
And so, it was a nice text message, but it wasn't a truthful text message. Right. And so I started thinking about that and I started thinking about, well, yeah, when you're a little kid, like, fine, you can get away with that, right? Little white lies like, oh, you're so good at baseball and you're not.
Yeah.
But like at a certain point, you're going to have, as a parent, have to tell your kid, like,
maybe baseball's not your thing.
Or, hey, if you really, really like it, you're going to have to work harder.
Right.
But like T-ball, you're not going to like get your 4-year-old in the car and be like, yo, dude, you suck today.
Right. Yeah, definitely
Like,
not.
you need to step up your game,
I hope nobody
bro.
does that to their children.
But you see my point, though, right? Yeah. But like at 13, you get in the car and you're like, son or daughter sucks. You don't tell them the white lie. You actually be truthful with them and be like, hey,
it's going to take more practice.
You know what? I know that you really like this sport, but if you want to continue and my pocketbook wants to continue, then maybe we look at either lessons or we work harder on the weekends or maybe after school we take an extra 30 minutes and practice, right? So I think that's but that's like human anything, right? Like when I was a roadie or when I traveled, I wasn't great at traveling right off the bat. I had to like learn how to adapt. I had to learn how to travel. I had to learn how to live with others in a confined space.
Yeah.
And I had to learn to live with thousands of strangers every time I walked into an airport. But adapting was something that I was really good at. And so looking at in this new home and looking at how we're going to structure our new days and all these things in the books and stuff, I started thinking, I was like, well, yeah, like it's not really a fair text message to send to someone who's 40, right? Like the better text message would be like, that's really awesome that you're growing. That's really awesome that you're seeing growth.
You're turning into a really great person.
Yeah, you're turning into a really great person because not everybody's great at everything. It takes time to get great at stuff. And then I think that's the human journey, right? The human journey is many, many, many decades, hopefully, right? Because you hope to have many decades of growth.
Yeah.
Like you don't want to be 80 and still the same person that you were at 30.
Right.
Because then it'd be kind of sad. There'd be zero growth for 50 years.
Right. That would be super sad.
You'd just be a stagnant human who lives in a fantasy world.
Yeah, who hadn't learned or grown in any way.
Or tried anything new or did anything or went anywhere. You just were the same person.
Yeah, that would not be awesome.
That wouldn't be.
No.
I think it would be boring. I think it would be boring not only for you, but everybody around you, because you'd be telling the same story.
Well, it would be a waste
of a life.
Of your life, yeah.
I heard that David Goggins talking about it in this very interesting way, and he was saying, well, what if you got to heaven?
Oh, you sent me this. This was good.
And all of a sudden, this whiteboard appeared, and God was like, all right, well, here's all these things, and you're reading it. And he's like, so who are you? And you're like, well, I'm Philip Kriz, and I'm 240 pounds. I'm going back to when I worked at Hooters, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm just a cook at Hooters. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden you start reading this board, and it's like traveled to 50 different countries, mm-hmm. toured around the world 3 or 4 times,
mm-hmm. in prime physical shape,
top physical condition, all these accolades, right? Mm-hmm. Wrote a book, mm-hmm. The list can go on forever, and you're like, whoa, what is that? And it's like, this is what you could have done.
This is what you were supposed to be.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's rad though. Yeah. If you think about it like that, holy shit, so now, instead of that, I'm looking at it in the opposite. I'm looking at, going there and saying, yep, did that, mm-hmm. Did that. Oh, you missed one down there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
In hope, in
hope of that, yeah.
And that's the key, though, is because we are striving every day to be better than we were yesterday. Mm-hmm. So to say that I'm the same great person I was when I was, 10 that's kind of a very untruthful statement. So then even looking at it deeper, I was like, I think that's what though goes wrong with a lot of friendships or even relationships or any kind of place where two people have to interact, mm-hmm. right? There's truth and then there's reality. Mm-hmm. And I think inside yourself, you have your subconscious that you talk to, right? Right. So you're battling two people, very reality true. And your subconscious and mm-hmm. conscience and all this stuff, right? And so if you consistently tell yourself I'm a great person, but mm-hmm. then on the outside, you aren't a great person.
Right.
Well, then what's the real truth, right?
Well, I mean, and I feel like that's the difference. I hate it when people say the phrase, my truth. Well, this is my truth. That's not the truth. There's only one truth.
Yeah.
And whether it's your truth or someone else's truth doesn't matter. It's just the truth. So you can't bend it that way. Oh, well, this is my truth. It's what I believe. And it's like, well, that's called an opinion.
Yeah.
Not the truth.
Your opinion of yourself is high.
Yeah.
But if 100 other people think you're an asshole, then you're an asshole.
Right.
That's fact.
Yeah.
And I think that's the one thing that really stood out to me was when we handed the book to this person. Uh-huh. Not this person that texted me, but another person.
A different person.
And
mm-hmm.
when we were driving, we were talking about what we were going to talk about on the podcast. I was like, well, I think about it like this. I had a friend that I gave the book to that I trusted, mm-hmm. and I asked for her opinion. Mm-hmm. She could have done 2 things. She could have been the friend that just says, oh, this is so rad that you wrote a book.
Great story.
It's really good.
Even though the writing is
You're going to go places. You're going to be big one day.
You can do it.
The flip side to it is mm-hmm. she said, this needs a lot of work. Mm-hmm. You have something, but it's not here. Mm-hmm. You need to really look at how you want to structure this because I don't get it. Mm-hmm. I see it, but I don't get it.
Yeah.
That was truth. Mm-hmm. That was someone who really loved me and really mm-hmm. cared about seeing me succeed, mm-hmm. as opposed to someone who's just oh yeah, you're 240 pounds. You look great.
Yeah.
You're a lovely person. Mm-hmm. It's no, you're fat. Get your shit together. Do you want to live or do you want to die? That is a true friend. Someone who's going to be at times brutally honest and be like, I'm glad that you see that you were not a great person. I'm glad that you finally realized over the years, because we all kind of said it to you, but you never heard it.
And a lot of times it takes, you going through your own stuff to really realize something.
Well, I think that's
the job of the friend or the person that cares about you is to
the key
be truthful.
The key is also being, the term situational awareness, right? Is also seeing, what's happening around me? Is the same thing continually happening and I'm saying that the world is bad? Or is it me and I'm fighting the idea that I'm a good person? I think that's the bigger one, is that most people want to believe that everything they do is perfect or good, or
of course
it's above average.
Yeah, because everybody's afraid to not be perfect. Everybody's afraid of rejection. It's the reject.
There's so many things. Everybody wants to fit in. Everybody wants to be in the, how do you say it? The clique, right? Whether it be the idea of a Republican or Democrat, right? If you're a Democrat and you say that you don't like one thing, well then are you a Democrat or are you a Republican?
Right.
And
Archimedes.
But I think that's the deeper issue though, and that's why it was so interesting to me when I read the text message, because it took me to a place where I was like, well, that's really nice. But nice isn't real though.
Right.
Like, that doesn't do anything good. What are you trying to be a good person and tell me that that's sweet of you? But
it's like what we've talked about in previous episodes where it's like, oh, that's a problem for future Phil.
Yeah.
Like, being nice right now might be nice right now, but it doesn't help you on your path in the future.
Yeah. And I think
it hinders you instead.
Absolutely. And it's across the board in anything you do, business practice, like, if you hold out on telling someone the truth, all you're doing is prolonging the issue. You're just like, do I rip this Band-Aid off now and just be done with it? And do I start to clean the wound and put new stuff on and then put new bandaging on? Or do I let this old Band-Aid sit here and fester and potentially get infected and then be nasty underneath? Or do I just like clean it and get over it? Right. And I think that's the bottom line, is that most people don't want to deal with what's in front of them. Most people don't want to take on the responsibility of saying like, yeah, that was me. I did it. But at the end of the day, like, how do I move forward? Right. How do we go about trying something new? Here we are. We tried something new. You and me, I think over the last 3 years, have consistently tried something new and it's not a monetary thing either, right?
Right.
Like, a lot of people, you're going to try something new if it's going to benefit you monetarily. But what if like you tried something new that would benefit you physically, right? Like, what if you tried something that was going to benefit you spiritually or emotionally? Like, emotional, I think, is sometimes that deeper wound that no one wants to deal with, because then you really got to answer some dark questions.
Absolutely.
And then you really got to go in and
take a very hard look at yourself.
Who do I want to? Because if you can't say it to yourself,
right,
then you're never going to say it, right?
Right.
So for me, it started to become like, well, I need to say that I'm hurt. And then I've hurt a lot of people. So like, I'm hurt. Like, it's that saying that
hurt people hurt people.
Yeah.
I love that saying.
And it's true. Like, if you're hurt and you're not willing to...
You lash out. It's that misery loves company idea.
Oh my gosh. Such a good song too. Soul Asylum, Misery. Yeah, it's you're trying to bring down everybody around you because you don't want to face the fear of what is factual.
Yeah.
And most of the time it's really not that scary. And I think once I started facing that fear, like, I was like really scared of my past always coming back around. Like, oh great, what if that person calls, or what if this person calls, or what if someone shows up?
Right.
Then it became like, well,
so what if they do?
Okay. And if they do, well, I'm different now.
Right.
So it doesn't matter because, like maybe my past was a complete shit show and I was a complete asshole for many, many years. But at the end of the day, though, I'm not that now. I would have to answer to those.
Yeah.
Like I don't get a free pass. It's not like I'm not 7 playing or 4 playing t-ball.
Right.
And I get a free pass to come home and just eat chips and be like, oh, I had a baseball game today.
You participated. Good job.
I ran the bases backwards, but I still won.
Right.
Like, I don't get that anymore. I still am responsible for things that I've done.
Absolutely.
But I don't have to be fearful of them. I don't have to be like, oh my gosh, like someone's going to call me out on cheating on so-and-so back 5 years ago or 10 years ago or 20 years ago, whatever it is. It's like, yeah, I was a cheater. I was an asshole. I don't know what you want me to say, but I'm not that anymore.
Right.
So if you'd like to have a conversation about what I am now, I would love to say sorry. Sorry for hurting you. I apologize for whatever I did that was wrong, but I can't change it.
Let's move forward.
So if you want to be my friend now, let's be friends.
Right.
Or if you want to be in the fam now, let's be in the fam now. But you can't do that stuff if you're not willing to be like, hey, things went awry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like we took a left turn somewhere around Narnia.
And it didn't work out.
Yeah. Those magic mushrooms really played a bad part on me. But it's true, though.
It is true.
It's so true. I know we laugh, but I can't stress it enough that I am a different person. However I try to think about it, and I'm like, no, I'm the same Phil. No, I am totally different. I am a completely different Phil. Yeah. Like I am,
which is a good thing.
It is a great thing.
Yeah,
it's not just good. I think it's great. It's allowing me to. Someone said this. This is a phrase I hate too. Like, oh, how you doing? I'm like, and I love saying I'm living the dream. I used to say it in hopes that I could then say, well, someone's dream, probably a nightmare. Like super, sarcastic and like in a way trying to be that guy that like, oh, my life, oh, woe is me, where?
Yeah.
And they said it though, and I turned around and said, actually, I really am living my dream now,
which is amazing.
When you think of it, say that out loud. Like, I mean, I'm really living my dream, and it's all thanks to... Not many
people get to say that.
And it's all thanks to, treading closer to that line that is called honesty.
Absolutely.
Now, am I completely honest every single second of the day? Probably not, because that's just
But you're a whole lot
hard,
more honest.
But I'm a whole lot more honest.
Yeah.
And it is good and bad, obviously. We've had a couple issues where honesty is not the greatest thing.
Well, I think there's a difference between being honest and truthful and everything versus being brutal about it.
Yeah, I have to work on brutal.
It's okay.
But I still think, though, that honest, though, is honest.
Honest is good. Sometimes there's just a way to be a little bit more delicate about it.
Yeah, I guess that's
a little like gentle honesty is better than brutal honesty. As long as you're not sugarcoating, you're still telling the truth, but you don't necessarily have to say all the things.
No, you have to say all the things. I think what you're trying to say is it's saying all the things without
being hurtful.
Yeah. And though I tend to say stuff, it is at times harsh. I think it's just who I am as a person.
We'll work on it.
Well, it's not me. I don't say that it's just me as a person, but it's breaking that habit of just
right.
Well, and two, it's vocabulary too. As my vocabulary gets better, my truthfulness becomes less harsh because now I'm able to use words that aren't so, just like roughneck.
Yes.
Like
rough around the edges.
Because like rough, like there's like terms and phrases that I've used for many years that are just in that vocabulary like sequence, so it is like, oh, well, maybe I can just shift this word out and insert this word, and that sounds
that's
nicer.
A little better. Yeah, exactly. Still sending the same message, just
because you don't want to, and also too, I think though,
it's more of like a paper cut than like a stab wound.
Well, it's also because you don't want certain things to just be like, oh, well, I mean, you did this, but
right.
You want to say it. I think what you're trying to say is there's also a ramp up too to things. Like you can't just like be like blah 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 blah. Like sometimes you have to be like, okay, well, like let's talk about this and let's sit down and let's actually work through the situation as opposed to just pinpointing what was messed up. Because when you pinpoint, then it looks like you're pointing the finger, as opposed to saying like, well, here we both were in this situation. You go, because each side has two snow globes they're looking out of. Yes, right. Like my snow globe looks different than your snow globe. Yeah, and those
perspective is everything.
Though our snow globes could be like in the same shelf on the same street,
looking at the same thing,
looking at the exact same thing.
Yeah,
my snow globe could have an ounce more glitter inside of it to where I missed a little perspective, and so but it takes both parties to like to look out those windows or look off the shelf together and say, okay, well, yeah, like we were in that same place together, but this is how it went down for me. Yeah, and this is how. But I think also too, a lot of people, it goes that whole saying like, you have 2 ears and one mouth for a reason, but most people don't like to listen. And I think there's something that I've been really thinking about, because I know once the book tours and things start happening, I'm really going to have to listen before I just rebuttal or say something. Yes. And part of that is listening and kind of repeating what was said to you. Because if you do that, then it gives your brain that even a fraction of a second to like
really analyze think about your answer,
what you're about to say. Because a lot of people hear keywords, and most people only hear the key anger words, right? So then they can just rebuttal angrily, right? And so there is no rebuttal. You're just fueling. Yeah, you're just getting into an argument for the sake of arguing. Yeah. And people love that. People love. I mean, but people live. That's a drug too. It is. Arguing is a drug.
Well, it pumps your adrenaline up.
Yeah, it gets your endorphins going, especially if you don't live in any like frame of enjoyment. Like you live in that constant fight, right? There's not like this, because you need roller coaster, you need emotion, you need to be down some days, not like down like downer, but you need downtime. Yeah, and you need middle time, and then you need to feel that upward climb, and then you also have to come crashing down from that. Absolutely. So I think but when you don't get that and all you get are spikes, then it's hard to listen. It's hard to be part of something. So yeah,
I agree. I'm glad that we don't live in that world.
Angry world. Sometimes I say sometimes I do. I think it's easy to get to that world, even if you live in a generally happy place. I think it is easy because if you allow those emotions to get into you, I think it is. It's just it is like a drug.
I guess it's just not something I've ever really experienced, but that's why everybody's different. That's why we're good for each other. Yeah, because we help balance each other out.
Yeah. I don't know. I've seen you get pretty angry before.
But living in anger?
Well, that's what I mean, though. But you can get there. Anybody can get there. Anybody can get to angry.
Like
it's not
healthy if you can't.
That's an easy thing. Yeah, you
being
need
able to balance it is the key.
Well, also taking that anger and going, okay, well, hold on.
I gotta reel it in a little bit.
Hold on, that went a little far.
Yeah, 100%. Very true.
All right. Well, I don't know if I don't think we were trying to resolve anything today.
No, I think it was just a good conversation of just like perspective. Really take a step back and look at yourself and have some real perspective, and always be seeking the truth, not your truth.
Yeah, that is very, 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 very real stuff. The truth, not your truth. That's why I think law is so interesting. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of sneaky things that I think people do. Yeah,
some of it can still be bent. There's still loopholes, but a lot of it is truth-based, fact-based, not opinion-based.
Well, I think that's why religion to me is a very interesting thing still to this day. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's always been interesting to me because of the fact that people bend it to their day.
Yeah, to satisfy their own wants and needs.
Like, I forgive, but not today.
But not today. Most days, but not today. Yeah.
Or I do all the right things. I go to church and I do all this. But when I get in my car,
I turn into a crazy road rage speed demon. Yeah,
the fingers start flying. But I think that, I don't know. I guess any kind of, even like an atheist, they tend, anybody can tend to live in that clique or that kind of set or whatever I'm trying to term, but there's easy way,
like their group.
Yeah, their group. Mm-hmm. But it's easy to allow yourself to be like, oh, I am this, and only when I need this, though.
Right. 100%.
And I think that's where that truthfulness, when you're like really fighting those dark days of answering those hard questions about yourself, those are when you really have to like sit back and be like, all right.
Mm-hmm. Here's where I'm at.
Okay. Like, let me answer this question. Mm-hmm. But it's about being honest with yourself first.
Absolutely.
That's a hard one.
It is.
I hate it. I hate being honest with myself.
But it's good.
Because once I know it, then it
can't unknow it.
But, well, yeah. And once I've answered it, I know the answer. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, I know, like, if like there's something that I'm like, oh, I messed up because I said that bad. Mm-hmm. Like, that was wrong. But it also goes the opposite way too. Like sometimes where I'm like, no, like I know that I'm in the right about something because I have consistently only been honest about this. Mm-hmm. There's that's the other fight to it too. Is I think that that's where like an anger can be in a good thing. Like not like anger, like fury, but like that fight in you. Like no,
passion is different than anger.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, but still, it's the same upward trajectory, right? Yeah. You're still your endorphins go that same direction because it's like, no, I know for a fact, like I did this right. Then the difference though is the anger where you're fighting for something because you want it to be that way versus it is that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, all right. I gotta go hang a ceiling fan.
Yes, you do. Have a wonderful week, everybody.
I'm becoming quite the handyman.
I love how handy you are. It's awesome. Tim the Tool Man Taylor.
Tool Man Taylor. Mm-hmm. Phil the Tool Man.
Chris.
So silly.
So silly.
All right, y'all. Thank you so much for listening.
We'll talk to you soon.
Have a wonderful week.
Bye.
Laters.